grew up in Indiana. I went to college at a small liberal arts school in central Kentucky and then made my way to DC. In college, I studied international relations and Spanish, and now in DC, I'm doing nothing related to any of that. But yeah, so for the past 10 years, I've been an East Coaster.
Awesome. And what do you do as Director of Operations? And that is your title, right? Okay. What do you do as Director of Operations at 1776? Sorry, one second.
Sure.
All right.
So 1776 is a startup itself. So in true startup fashion, it's a job that pretty much encompasses a little bit of everything. So from everything from sort of making sure that everything on our physical space, which is what we call our campus, runs efficiently and effectively every day, to managing build-out projects. Last year, we opened up a second floor in the space, so I managed the full build out of that, and that was my first construction project, which was exciting and terrifying at the same time. And essentially making sure that this is a best-in-class facility for our members to work, to scale, and grow their companies.
What are some of the joys and challenges associated with this job?
Sure. I think, hands down, the number one, exciting thing about this job is our members and working with really passionate entrepreneurs every day, seeing the great things that their companies are doing. And, our companies here are focused on healthcare, education, energy, transportation, solving some of the world's sort of big challenges. So seeing what they're working on and helping be a part of that is really exciting. I think the challenge is working for a startup and working with startups. It's always a little sort of, there's not sort of finalized, processes and things like that. And my background is project management, so not having sometimes a clear path forward can be a little daunting. So sometimes you just kind of have to roll up your sleeves and make your own way ahead.
Sounds like you have a pretty resilient attitude. Where'd you get that fighting spirit?
I really say that's more my Midwestern background, right? So I actually come from a line of farmers. So I think, when you're forging your way and moving out west and, building, making your own way, you have to be able to just kind of do whatever it takes to get the job done. And you have to have that kind of resilient spirit.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry. Sometimes when it's near a video camera, it starts to
freaks out.
Yeah, it does. It's so bizarre, but it does. So you mentioned some of the industries that 1776 works in and startups that it works with. So 1776 helps fund startups and industries ranging from education to energy and sustainability to health, transportation, and cities. Do you focus on or feel passionate about any of these in particular? And if so, why?
I would say the industry that I feel most passionate about would be education. I think that in many ways that's something that really levels the playing field for a lot of people and really enables people to, forge their own way ahead in life. And I think, some of the interesting things that I've seen here focusing on sort of the new way of education, moving away from sort of the traditional pathways that we've seen, in schools and things like that, and thinking about sort of very practical, skills-based, just-in-time education for the skills that you need. For example, our partner here, General Assembly, focuses on that. So essentially they have a 13-week immersive course where in 13 weeks you have the credentials to be a junior developer. So literally over the course of 3 months, someone can change their career trajectory. Wow. And I think that's really exciting.
Awesome, thank you. And let's talk a little bit about your faith. What does your Jewish identity mean to you?
I think, two things that I really love about Judaism that really speaks to me. And I think, one, it's interesting, like I said, my sort of background is project management. And I think in many ways, Judaism is essentially a project plan for a life well lived. I think everything from how one should lead their life to the whole sort of life cycle from a bris to a bar mitzvah to a wedding to a shiva really sort of encapsulates that full life cycle concept. And the yearly cycle of the Hagim and celebrating that, I think, allows one to go through sort of a full range of emotions, feelings, and I like how it really sort of outlines, here's how one should live a life of purpose, meaning, and giving back.
Would you say that you're involved in the Jewish community or in your synagogue? And if so, how and why? Why is that important or worthwhile to you?
Yeah. So community, the whole concept of community is another thing that, I really love about Judaism. And I think that instant connection, wherever you travel, wherever you go, it's, from the beginning, people are playing Jewish geography and sort of understanding where you come from, what community you belong, what community you're part of, and I love that. So because community is really important to me, I'm very active in the community here. So from the second I started going to Kesher, I started volunteering to help with Mishloach Manot, and then, moved into positions. I was on the Shul board for a couple of years, helped actually streamline the Shul operations and revamped our website and communications policy. And for the past year, I've served on the Welcome Committee with my husband, so welcoming new people into the community and hosting new folks around the Shabbat table. So I think that sense of community and feeling instantly when I walk through Kesher's doors, I feel like I'm home, and I feel like that's where my family is, and that feeling is just incredible.
That's great. Exactly. You don't have to answer this, but I do wonder if our readers might pick up on it. In the wake of recent events, has that tightened that sense family community in Kesher? Do you feel closer with people, or how has that affected life, or for you, your relationship with your faith and community?
Sure. I mean, certainly, I think, a lot of different people would respond to that differently. For me personally, it's certainly been a rough time, but I have really been completely overwhelmed about how the community has really pulled together from Simchas Torah to now, and seeing the way the community has come together, supported each other in a variety of different ways, has been really amazing to me, and has really solidified the feeling that Kesher is family, and that, like a family, through the good times and the rough times, you pull together and you help each other out. So I think that the community has really come together in an amazing and incredible way.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Do your faith and Jewish values affect your work at all? For that matter, do you ever work with any Jewish organizations or startups, perhaps in fields like education or sustainability?
Yeah, I think, one of the exciting things here is, so 1776, we have a global competition where we not only work with top startups in the DC area in the fields that we focus on, but we also look for startups around the world in those industries. And for the past 2 years that we've had our Challenge Cup competition, we've traveled to Tel Aviv as one of those cities. And as part of last year's sort of final festival, some of the top startups that have really come out of this competition have been Israeli startups. And I think the exciting thing there is that sort of sense of pride that Israeli startups continue to lead in innovation and continue to sort of be the best of the best is exciting. And, I think outside of that, I want to say definitely, I think, the way I sort of practice Judaism, I think it affects every aspect of my life. So certainly, I think just in a sense of how I interact with people here, how I treat, my coworkers, our members here, and how I sort of derive purpose and meaning from what I do is all connected back to my faith.
Do you do any volunteer work, or are you involved with any other organizations outside of your shul, outside of 1776?
For the past sort of 5 years that I've been going to Kesher, I've really sort of focused my volunteer time and energy around that community. Kesher is pretty much a volunteer-led organization, and so knowing that and understanding that community means a lot to me. I've decided to invest a lot of my time there.
Great. And what do you do for fun? Do you have any hobbies?
I do. So, well, first of all, I will say that, my husband and I, we love entertaining. So we love having people over and meeting new folks. So definitely having a new group of people around the Shabbat table every week is exciting. And outside of that, I like to dabble in fashion and blogging and things like that too. So you'll usually find me, looking through the latest Vogue edition or working on a new blog post for a series that I have that sort of looks at the intersection of fashion and philanthropy.
Speaking of that, you do have a great sense of style. How did you develop it, and from where do you draw inspiration as a fashionista?
Yeah, thanks. So, again, I think I want to say it comes from my mom. My mom was always, very put together and very much taught me from an early stage that you only have one chance to make a first impression, so and a lot of that is wrapped up in sort of how you present yourself to the world. And also the understanding that if you feel like you look good, you feel good, and that affects your self-confidence and how you approach the world. So I've taken that a lot to heart. I think it's actually a really exciting time right now for those who are tznius, for people that want to be a little bit more modest with their dress, but still sort of on the edge of fashion. There's some great fashion bloggers out there in New York and LA, Fabologist and 19 Orange, Miu Maxi, which they're two Hasidic sisters based in Brooklyn who are making fashion lines. So I think there's a lot of really exciting inspiration out there, and actually Orthodox women who are designing clothes now for people that want to be modest but fashionable.
Very cool. Is there anything, what's something that most people don't know about you?
Wow. I have to think about this for a second. It's hard because I feel like I'm pretty much an open book in a lot of regards, and I do. I think everything from faith to my passions, I wear on my sleeve and I talk a lot about. So I think in that sense, I can't think of something that, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know.
That's all right. And is there anything else that we should know about you? What else should we know about Stephanie Vidikan? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Let me see. I think that's it. I think like I've said, the important things to me, honestly, are I think my work and how I sort of help the community here, and how I sort of make my mark on the world through what I do here at 1776, and then my faith, which is another huge component, and exemplified by how involved I am in the community, and how I sort of internalize that every day.
Great. Thank you so much. I
Thanks.
really appreciate it.